How about all those awful Bible contradictions everyone talks about? Well, you know, those are really, as they say, much ado about nothing. I can tell you a half a dozen different ways that you can dispose of most Bible contradictions. And they're really not contradictions after all. They're really just surface discrepancies. And really, that's the exact kind of evidence you would look for in a court of law if you had independent witnesses. If you had them agree too closely, people would suspect they got together and cooked everything up, made it all up, fabricated it. What you see in the Gospels, for example, is discrepancies on the surface that when you dig a little deeper, you could resolve them into a fuller picture of what actually went on. It's like you can have, well, one of the things they use is called paraphrase. When they memorized back then, when they quoted someone, they felt free back then in that culture, in the first century, to vary the words, vary the wording, leave out some detail or add more detail, as long as the meaning, the essence of it was preserved. Hence, you see differences in the words of Jesus from gospel to gospel referring to the same event. That doesn't mean the event didn't happen. Historians don't throw that away and say it wasn't historical. They just take into account the fact that in the first century, they didn't even use quotation marks. They weren't so much worried about a word-for-word repetition as they were trying to capture the meaning of what was going on. That couldn't vary. And so you see those contradictions in words really aren't contradictions after all. They're just the way they wrote back then. They also didn't necessarily want to be chronological in their presentation. Many times they would vary the different events in Jesus' life as far as the order that they presented them in. Now we have to be careful when we read the New Testament to notice that if something says, and Jesus did this, and he did this, and he did this, it doesn't mean they necessarily followed in time order. The Greek connector there, kai, just simply means this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. It doesn't mean they were necessarily in time order, unless you get a connector, like on the same day Jesus did this, he did this. And I've gone through the entire 4 Gospels, and I'm not seeing one single contradiction in terms of time sequence where they said Jesus did something on the same day, and then on another gospel he said he did something totally different. And I can give examples of that, and I have examples of that in my book.